Most of us tend to make some assumptions about ourselves. Some of them nice, and some of them maybe not so nice. Maybe these assumptions include that our past mistakes, failures, or challenges mean we're not enough. But what if those very experiences are the reason we're capable of so much more? Today, I want to talk about embracing what you've been through and using it to grow stronger, and why telling your story doesn't make you a victim. Welcome back to She's Probably Talking to Other Guys. I'm your host, Annie of the Banannie Diaries. There's something about today's episode that made me want to just do like a very cozy, casual episode. If you're watching this with a video, you're going to see some skincare and some other parts of my self care routine. So if you're watching this with a video, you'll see that. And on YouTube, you'll find some links that detail some of the products that I'm using. This is not a sponsored episode. I am just sharing this because something about this topic makes me feel like we need to have like an extra cozy moment so you feel good about yourself, because I want you to feel good about yourself, take away from this episode what you need, and to overall leave this episode with some tools to help you if you find yourself making assumptions about yourself. Just a friendly reminder, I am not a therapist, psychologist, or expert in human behavior. Everything shared here is based on personal experience, opinions, and a lot of conversations over coffee with friends. If you're struggling with something deeper, I always recommend seeking professional help in chatting with a licensed professional. This is a judgment-free, assumption-checking zone, so take what resonates with you and leave the rest. A quick recap of last week before we get started with today's episode. Last week was episode 8, and it was titled Beyond the Bikini, What Sports Illustrated Swimsuit is Really About. I shared some of my experience hanging out with the Sports Illustrated Swimsuit team and meeting so many incredible women there. And we also just talked a little bit about empowerment, how Sports Illustrated Swimsuit is a huge community full of amazing, incredible women. If you haven't tuned in yet, tune into that one, especially if you love a good dose of women supporting women. While I move throughout these sections and talk about our different topics for today, I'm going to sneak in a little bit of self-care as promised. So I have this cute little candle. It's called Self-Care. Smells like face masks and do not disturb. And it's mint and eucalyptus. So I'm going to light this while I talk. The first section for today's episode is the assumption that struggles make you weak. That assumption is like very wrong, because when you go through struggles, 9 times out of 10, you come out stronger in the end. See, I have my little candle here. I'm going to set this to the side. So when you're going through a struggle, yes, it's hard. That's why it's a struggle. But the whole point is that when you go through it, trusting that there's light at the end of the tunnel, if we use that phrase. So struggles do not mean that you're falling behind. I personally think if you're running into struggles, it's because you're either trying something new or you're leveling up. Maybe you don't realize that you're leveling up, or maybe you don't realize that you are trying something new and you're hard on yourself immediately. But struggling to me tends to mean that you've reached like a new level and it's time to go through a struggle, whether it's a small one or a big one, because in the end, it's going to help you grow. An assumption related to struggling is everyone has to follow the same timeline for growth. And that's not true. And This also ties a little bit into our comparison episode where we talked about comparing yourself to others that you see. A lot of times, especially on social media, you're seeing a lot of wins, and maybe it looks like someone didn't have a period of struggling. But whether you're an entrepreneur or not, I think that you can take something away from a lot of other podcasts by entrepreneurs or some quotes from some entrepreneurs that there is like a huge struggling process that a lot of people don't see, and that a lot of people go through this season that is just so hard and so difficult. But it's whether it's perseverance or determination or just like this wild belief in yourself and your goals, the struggle doesn't last forever. Eventually, the struggle turns into this like beautifully blooming project. And sometimes maybe it does result in failure, but failure is still a sign that you tried something. Failure is not a sign that you completely lost. You tried something new. And if you're still failing, you're still trying. And I know, again, easier said than done, but speaking from experience, and again, just from listening to so many others and their stories, there tends to be a big season of struggle or maybe numerous seasons of struggle, and that's okay. So when it comes to following the same timeline for growth, that is not correct whatsoever. Everyone has their own timeline and everyone's moving on their own timeline, whether they realize it or not. For those of you watching, or if you follow my other social media, you know I'm obsessed with my red light face mask. I'm going to put that on right now. I don't know, did it change my voice at all? I don't think so. So if you're watching this, you can see that I'm using my red light face mask. I promise this was going to be full of my favorite self care because this is supposed to be a feel good episode and I want you to feel good. The next assumption related to this topic is that struggles take away from your worth. I think that it's very easy to put yourself down if your plan isn't going smoothly. Sometimes some intrusive thoughts can be that, like, why did I even start this? This isn't going to work, or this isn't working. It mustn't be meant to be, something along those lines. Or sometimes, like, I've heard assumptions of people say about themselves, like, I'm so stupid, like, why did I even try this? And a lot of times it's out of frustration, maybe it's out of disappointment because you are facing this struggle. But again, at the end of the day, it's your challenges don't make you less than. Your challenges don't devalue you. You need to find the motivation from somewhere to keep going and to keep trying. This mask is crooked on my face. I just looked at myself in the camera and realized how crooked my eyes look. Ah, I think that if you find yourself in a moment where you're starting to doubt yourself and starting to have thoughts about your worth, remind yourself of what your strengths are. Remind yourself of what your weaknesses are too, because if you're struggling with something that you know is your weakness, this is your tool for growth. If this is not something that you're great at, but you're trying to get great at, it's not necessarily going to be easy to change something from a weakness to a strength. Go for it. Don't stop trying. But again, highlight your strengths, highlight your areas of growth, also known as weaknesses, and then just remind yourself that this is a journey that you're on and it's most likely not going to correct itself overnight. A lot of times, the reality is that growth comes from struggle, growth comes from facing adversity, learning from it, and if it happens again, reminding yourself that you've made it through past periods of struggle, you can make it through this next struggle as well. Because it's not that you're going to go through one struggle and then everything's going to be perfect from then on. If you're continuing to level up, you're going to continue finding different areas that maybe are harder than others. Personal relation to this is ballroom dancing. I mean, honestly, you think that everything is going well in practice, and then maybe today something's just not working, and maybe it's worked every other time, or maybe you're learning something new. Maybe you have reached a new level, and now all of a sudden it feels like you're starting over again. I mean, it can seriously be such a mind game. And then, not to even mention results that come in from competition. I mean, those are all over the place. And then they can also seriously mess with your head as well. So, there's just so much that is relatable to ballroom dancing from this entire topic and this entire episode. But again, what I'm saying is coming from a place of growth and encouragement because I've been in low places and I know what that feels like. And I really don't want you to feel like that because I know what it feels like. And no, I'm not saying our experiences have been the same, but when you've been through an experience where like you truly know what like sadness and disappointment feels like, I think that from a human perspective, it's natural to not want anyone to have to experience that. You know, I always butcher quotes. I'm gonna not butcher this one right now, and I'm going to post it on social media instead for the blog because I feel like it's a very like sentimental and important quote, and I don't want to ruin it right now. Moving on to the second portion of this episode, the assumption that you should have it all figured out. I feel like I've seen often that nobody really knows what they're doing. Nobody really has it figured out. I mean, being a human in this world, we're all just kind of trying things. I mean, maybe some people will never admit that, but I don't think that there's that many people who have their lives figured out at the end of the day. And again, I'm sure some people will 100% like refute that statement, but that's on you. I truly don't think that many have it figured out. So, relating to having it all figured out would be an assumption of healing means you forget the past. So, maybe there was a moment where you thought something was going to come out really great and you tried something new, and maybe it turned into one of the worst experiences of your life. So you can certainly grow from it. You're going to learn your lesson from it, but you don't want to repeat that because if it broke you down once, the second you see a similar situation or a similar scenario start unfolding, you need to remember what happened before and then make your decision based on that. If you're in a point where you feel that you have healed from that, personally, speaking from personal experience, you can look at the situation from a much different light and almost feel a bit calmer about it because if this is truly something that broke you and you healed from it, you're not going to want to do that to yourself again because you know what that process of healing took, the effort, the emotion, the like mental toll that healing from whatever it was took, that you're not going to want to choose a path that repeats history again. So, healing from something, maybe because something really didn't work out for you, you don't want to forget it because you don't want to accidentally go down that same path again. So the second you feel like, oh, maybe this is the same situation presenting itself in a whole new environment, you want to recognize that so you can stop and think about it before you continue any further down that similar path from before. I think that a very popular term recently is pivot. Maybe you don't have everything all figured out, but you have the ability to pivot quickly, or you want to learn how to pivot quickly. And I think that that's always something that's really good to know because life is full of twists and turns and these unexpected moments that maybe we think we should be able to handle, but in reality, we've never experienced it before. So, how do we know how to handle it? And I think it's just about stopping yourself in the moment and thinking, okay, what can I do right now? And then pivot. So, running my small business, I am literally pivoting constantly. There are some products that I thought were going to be a hit. And then I'm like, oh boy, that did not perform the way that I thought it was going to. So I pivot and I put something else out instead. So again, I think that business owners can relate. If you work for yourself, you can relate. But again, of course, if you work somewhere else too, you can 100% relate to this as well in your own way of pivoting. Sometimes maybe you're in an office and all of a sudden the project didn't go out as planned. You need to pivot and you still need to get something done and be productive. So, again, I think that pivoting is very good to know and also to just take a deep breath when you're in the middle of something that didn't work out. Take a deep breath and think, okay, well, how can I still achieve my goals or still achieve the original vision that I wanted, but in a different way? And sometimes maybe looking at it from a different perspective gives you a completely different idea. And maybe now, because you had to pivot, your project might come out better than it was originally planned to. You never know. And I just think that when life comes up with twists and turns, maybe the universe is presenting you with a struggle because the original path wasn't going to turn out well for you anyway. So especially now, again, after going through this healing process that I've gone through, if something happens in the middle of my day, I try to just remind myself, okay, this is happening for a reason. I literally have no idea why this is happening, but we need to try to make the best out of it, pivot if we need to, and just go with it. I mentioned before that I saw this meme about like every delay in your life or every change happens for a reason. Trust in the universe, all those good phrases. So, again, I don't think anybody really has it figured out. I don't think that there's a blueprint that works for everyone. So, do your best because that's what most other people are trying to do is their best. What's that mean? Said, "What are you doing?" And the answer was, "My best." Section number 3, personally, I feel like this one is very special to me because I can really relate to this. The assumption that your past defines you. Your past is not your identity. You can literally wake up and choose a different path. You can wake up and choose to change certain aspects of your life. You can wake up and decide, okay, I do not like what happened yesterday. I'm not going to do that again. It can be something as simple as thinking that I just want to be better than I was yesterday, or you can wake up and literally have a whole rebrand. There are no rules on that. There is really like no limit on what you can decide that you want for yourself. I think that when it comes to something like this topic about your past as your identity, one of the harder things to get over is the people who knew you when maybe you were going through a phase that you really didn't like about yourself. I know that I have been through those phases for sure. Maybe I was around a certain group of people, so I acted a certain way because I thought that that was how I would fit in with them. Or maybe it was just an environment that I was in and I had to act a certain way in order for these people to approve me or for me to get their approval. I think that one of the harder things is that if you run into these people or these people are talking about you now and they don't know why you changed and they don't need to know why you're changed. This turns back to our episode about what you share with people and who gets a front row seat to your life. That's what we're talking about right now kind of turns into is you don't need anyone's permission to decide that you don't want to be I'm just going to say that person, referring to maybe your past self anymore. And it's hard because people gossip and people talk, especially people who maybe you don't talk to anymore and maybe they're upset about it that you don't talk to them anymore. And they're going to gossip and they're going to talk about you. And maybe you have changed dramatically depending on what you've been through and depending on your life. No judgment here whatsoever from me. But people are going to talk, and maybe people are going to try to, what's the word I'm looking for? People are going to try to, okay, I still couldn't think about it. Maybe it's kind of like along the words of people are going to reject anything you say about how you've changed because they don't believe it, or they're just being mean, or they're just jealous because maybe you got out of a situation and they're still stuck in it, something along those lines. So maybe they're going to shut down any good things that they hear about you if you've changed. And maybe they're going to just shoot those down and be like, no, I know this person. This is how they are. Still referring to the old you. Oh my gosh, this is like bringing so many ideas in my head right now. I'm going to probably stay on this section for a little while because now I have to organize all these thoughts that are just popping into my head. We're going to talk about rumors for a second. So, something that I don't like is I don't like when people out of nowhere from your past decide to start talking about you, spreading rumors about you, and just saying really mean things, whether it's a place of jealousy. Or I always love this meme that I saw, or this, I always butcher this, or this quote. It was something about rumors about a woman come from a man who can't have her or a woman who can't compete with her. And I have found that to be so true. And that literally lives rent free in my head. And it's actually one of the phrases that I repeat to myself if I start getting uncomfortable or if I encounter someone from my past that I had a really bad experience with, or if, again, I've mentioned before about the rumor mill and how I've been in it, unfortunately, or if I hear like an old rumor coming up, or if I see one of the people who started one of them about me, I just run that quote through my head a few times and it makes me feel better. So that's one of the little mantras that I use to help myself feel better in those moments. But I'm going to use an example for a second. So I'm not going to use anyone specific. I'm just going to say in general. I don't like reading gossip columns. I don't like tabloids. I don't like personally like engaging or reading any type of gossip or drama about celebrities or people overall. I don't, because I think personally that you don't know, first of all, if any of this has been like factually checked. You don't know. You don't know who's actually saying these things about these people. And I just personally don't overall really like where these rumors and the gossip comes from because generally I don't believe it comes from a good place. A lot of times, for example, it says a source from someone very close to so and so. If it was really someone that close to whoever this person is, do you really think that they would be going to a reporter or whatever the situation is and talking trash about that person? Because in my mind, you're not very close to me if you're going to go and you're going to make something up about me and talk trash about me. I'm saying this because maybe you knew someone who, let's just say, like you knew someone in high school. Maybe now they're like a public figure. I think it's really strange that people all of a sudden have so much to say about someone when they become a public figure. I think it's really strange. I think that if you wanted to call this person out for something, you had plenty of time to do it. You didn't have to wait to do it until they became a public figure. And I am like very judgmental of the people who come out and say these things because it goes in my mind like, how bored are you with your own life that you literally need to seek out someone to spread a rumor or to say something about someone, like however long it's been since you've known this person or since you've communicated with this person. Like, do you have literally nothing better to do with your own life than to focus on trying to destroy someone else's with information that is probably either very old and this person has healed, grown, and moved on from it, and they're not even this person anymore, or it's just a complete rumor full of garbage to begin with. Okay, if you're watching on the video, my face mask just ended, so we're going to take a brief moment. I'm going to put on some moisturizer. But yeah, I might sound like very heated about this, but it's something that really bothers me. Again, I think being someone who's been involved in the rumor mill and had so many things made up about them that they didn't do, I find this topic incredibly relevant because I just think that when you've been through something and it completely plays these head games with you and brings you to one of the lowest points in your life, again, as a human, I just think that it makes you feel really bad for these other people that this is happening. And it's also one of the reasons why I don't engage in gossip or drama on the internet because I am not going to add to someone's engagement rate or to keep pushing this story along when you don't even know if it's true or not. I'm going to spray this facial spray that I love. Okay, and now that my mask is off, I'm going to put some of my lip balm on to moisturize my lips. I told you today was cozy because I just feel like this may be an emotional episode for people, so I'm encouraging you to be cozy and comfy and do things you love while you listen or watch this. If you're someone who hasn't been involved in rumors or gossip or drama whatsoever, I would encourage you when you read something about someone, especially on the internet or social media, um, think twice before you believe it. Because a lot of what people say to try to get attention or to try to create news, it can be very mean and it can be very hurtful. And you don't know what these people have gone through. You don't know what they've actually been through. And you don't know who's actually saying these things about this person. And I just think that it can be like such a hard, well, I don't think, I know that it can be such a hard thing to go through. And I just feel for anyone who has to go through something like that. So, your past is not your identity. You can literally reinvent yourself anytime you want. I feel like I am always reinventing myself. So, not just because I continue to take on new project after new project, I think it's just something in me where I literally want to become my best self for myself and for people around me, for people who follow my blog, who listen to this podcast. I always want to also show people that who you were in the past is literally not who you always have to be. And if people from your past are going to judge you for that, it sounds to me like they're still stuck in the past and that it's their problem that they still think these things about you because it literally has nothing to do with you. If someone comes out of the blue and tries to trash you, or someone comes out of the blue and tries to quote unquote cancel you, that sounds like a them problem. Because if they're from your past and they're still saying these things, they don't know you now. They don't know that you've grown. They don't know that you've changed. They don't know that maybe your past experiences stayed in the past for you and you completely moved on and became a better person, whatever the situation may be. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are plenty of people who haven't changed, but what I'm talking about is you know deep down if you've grown from your experiences. You know deep down what your past experiences have led to in your life. Other people might not know. And I think that it's very important that it's your story. Your past is only part of your story. And I would challenge you to think, if you could reinvent yourself, what are the parts that you would keep and what are the parts that you would reinvent? So think about that. The podcast isn't done yet, but that's a little thought to put in your head. Moving into the next section. This might be very personal for people. I know it was very personal for me. Telling your story doesn't make you a victim. I think that there's definitely a stigma out there about, first of all, like the word victim in the first place. Second of all, just because maybe you're finally ready to share something that happened to you, you're just sharing it. You're just getting that experience out of your head. Maybe you're saying it for the first time. Maybe you're repeating it because it's still bothering you. Whatever the reason may be, it is your story and it is something that you're sharing. It's something that you went through. And I think, just from like a certain personal perspective, that it is incredibly rude for someone to call you a victim or to say that you're being a victim because you're sharing your story. Again, for example, for anyone who asked me something, I very rarely share much about my experience that I went through. I really don't. Um, when I do, it's coming from a very healed part of me where it comes out very matter of factly. I think one of the reasons I never wanted to really share anything to begin with, especially like right after all of the drama happened, was that I felt like if I told what happened, that I was going as low as those people were because I was talking about them and because I was talking about what happened. But I had to remind myself that what I was saying was what I experienced. I wasn't talking bad about these people. I wasn't starting rumors about them. I wasn't saying it from a place where I was attacking them or where I was saying any lies or anything bad about them. I wasn't calling them names. I was matter of factly saying what happened. And I think that in the beginning, I didn't want to talk because I thought that by telling my story of what happened, that I would be lowering my bar of standards to act like them in a way. But then I had to remind myself that everything I was saying was coming from a place of, this is what happened, this is what I went through. If you want to tell your story, it's your story to tell. I'm not going to tell you how to tell your story. But telling your story shouldn't, and in my opinion, doesn't make you a victim. Now, again, your story is coming from truth. Your story is coming from a place of, this is what happened to you. So when you share it, I mean, I would imagine it's a very personal experience to share it. It's not a sign of weakness. Sometimes people sharing their own story is because they want others to know what they've gone through and that you can get better from it. It's not something to be ashamed of if you're going through the same thing. So if I was to share part of it, I would tell you it was really about how I was surrounded by a lot of people where I learned that I was not who I wanted to be. It was not a productive atmosphere for me to be in. I cried almost every day of my life then. I was very negative. I did not have much positive things to say. And I woke up one day and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I can't. Like, this is not where I want to be. This is not getting me to where I want to go. These people who are around me are not people who are benefiting me, who are benefiting my life, who are benefiting my growth. It was rumors, gossip, drama, constant judgment, and I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't. If you feel that your story is going to help others, share it. If you're comfortable with it, you have to be comfortable with it. Um, I know that people comment on some of the motivational posts that I share. Some people comment on this podcast about how it helps them. And I love that. I really do. I think that if everybody shares a little something, we'll all realize that we're not supposed to be perfect and we're not supposed to know where we're going in this life. You can see I'm like twisting my little hoodie ties here because I'm getting nervous. So again, like I'm still in this healing process, right? Like you can tell if you're watching the video, I'm getting anxious. Just sharing what little I shared. So that's enough for me to share on my personal story right now. But again, I think it's such a process for everyone. Maybe some people heal quickly, maybe some people aren't completely healed. Maybe it's going to take a really long time for some people to heal from what they went through. And again, it all ties back to everyone is on their own journey and everyone is on their own path. There's an assumption that sharing your struggles or sharing your story can be a sign of weakness. And in reality, I feel very strongly that it's the opposite. It's more about empowerment and sharing with others that if you did it, hey, I bet you can do it too. One other quick assumption about how telling your story, people think it makes you a victim. People hearing your story can assume that you're still stuck in what happened and that maybe that's why you're talking about it right now. And again, to me, those are just some very closed minded people. Sorry, not sorry. If you only see that one side of it, you don't know what this person has been through. You don't know what it's taking for them to come out and talk about this right now. Maybe they're not stuck in it at all. Maybe they've completely healed from it and they've moved on, but they felt that their story would help someone else. And that is very possible. I also think that a quick throwback again to Sports Illustrated swimsuit, Jordan Childs was there and she was talking about the book that she wrote and how it was her story and it was her story to write, her story to tell. And I think that that's very powerful. She took what happened in her life and she wrote it. She put it down on paper because it was her story. And again, I think that that ties right back to why are you listening to what gossip tabloids have to say about anyone? Why are you listening to drama that people bring up out of the blue about someone? Like, what is the motive there? Because when people want to talk garbage about other people and try to bring them down, it is not coming from a place of kindness. It's really not. So, again, you can believe someone's story when it comes out of their own mouth, or you can choose to believe what other people have to say. But I don't know why you would want to believe it from someone else instead of from the person themselves. Should I say sorry, not sorry? I'm someone who went through it. So I'm going to tell you, I'm very open minded. I don't like to believe things about people. I like for someone who's the subject of something to say it for themselves. I don't like to believe it if it comes from someone else because coming from someone else is kind of like the game of telephone. I mean, how many times, if you played the telephone game, whispering into each other's ear, how many times did the initial phrase even come out remotely close by the time the last person said it? So we played that game telephone. I'm clearly revealing that I'm a millennial. When I was little, And we even played it like growing up too for fun. And it's just like such proof that why would you want to believe something that comes out of someone else's mouth about another person? That's just my take. Also, side note, if you're watching this with video, I'm wearing another cozy set from my small business that is launching. So get ready. I'm so excited for you to see these new Mental Health Matters hoodies and sweatpants. There's matching sweatpants. And they're so comfy and cozy. I warned you today was going to be a cozy day. Our last section is turning lessons into action. The whole concept of today was that what's happened in your past, it doesn't define you. So when you think about your past and you think about your experience, if you turn them into lessons in your mind, right? Like your experiences were all lessons. What did you learn from these lessons? Maybe now you're realizing something you learned, and that's okay. Maybe you're realizing bits and pieces that you kind of want to change about yourself. That's okay. Maybe you're happy with how you are. That is okay too. I think the important piece when it comes to not feeling judged by your past is that you, at the end of the day, need to be happy with who you are right now. If you're happy with who you are, yay. That is amazing for you. But for people who want to change, people who want to maybe change a little bit about themselves, and maybe people who want to do like a complete 360 on themselves and their lives, think about how you handled a past experience. If you were to take that same experience today, how would you react? If you never thought of your experiences as life lessons, if you stop for a second and think, okay, maybe this was my life lesson. What did I learn from it? Or what could I learn from it now? Do it. Because anything that helps you grow, anything that helps you become the person that you want to be is always worth it. Safely, of course. I always warn you, safely, of course. I don't know what some of the things you guys want to do or want to be are. Celebrate your small wins and your progress. If you're feeling down on yourself, think where you were 2 years ago. 2 years ago, were you sitting there hoping that what you're doing right now is what you wanted? 2 years ago? I know for me it is. And I have to remind myself that because, again, as an entrepreneur, there are days when the growth is like wild. And there are days and weeks where it's like I can hear the crickets. All right. And it's hard to keep yourself going. But you have to think, okay, 2 years ago, is this what I wanted? And if the answer is yes, then you need to keep going. Because think to yourself now, okay, in 2 years, what else do I want? And then 2 years from now, do your check in, right? That would actually be interesting. Maybe I'll do this to put like a reminder in my phone for 2 years from now. I have to be very specific though, because in 2 years, my reminder will go off and I'll think, what in the world does this reminder mean? But maybe I'll do that for fun. Maybe I will put a reminder in my phone for 2 years from today. I don't know. Actually, can I do 2 years from today? That's actually something I need to look into. Another very important, I'm going to say very important because this changed a lot for me. Surround yourself with people who uplift you. I've mentioned before, my best friend is terrible at texting, but she always gets back to me. And if I send out like a little SOS, she always gets back to me 10 times quicker than she usually does. Um, my dance partner is always there for me. He always tells me things like, why are you thinking about that? Like, don't think about that. Think about this. And he's always there when I need someone. Some of my other friends are always there for me as well. And I appreciate them more than probably they know. Um, I think that there are just some people that I've met along the way who are a little dose of sunshine, and I love it. I love spending time with them. They put me in such a good mindset, and I need to hang out with them more. Maybe when I'm done filming this, I need to text some of them. But again, I think that for little mindset shifts that have helped, I have certain YouTubers. I'll go to their channel and I'll watch some of their meditation videos. I journal sometimes, I'll be honest. I don't journal as often as I should. I feel like I should. But at the same time, I like to read. I feel like reading a good book, which some of them are available. My favorites are available at Shop the Banannie Diaries. Some of those books there, I love reading, and I've like reread them over and over. Especially, I like bookmark certain pages that I know help me and help my mindset. And then, yeah, again, hanging out with certain people, it can really change my mindset from being really terrible to making me start like brand new projects because I'm feeling really good. So I think that whatever works best for you, note that in your head, whether it's a certain person you're around or a certain book you're reading, or maybe a little self care like I did today. Note the little things that make you feel better and do more of them for sure. To recap, your challenges don't define you, your past doesn't define you. How you react when challenges happen, how you react to past experiences, how you choose if you're going to continue being the same or if you're going to better yourself. Those are things that are going to help you grow. And I think that, again, it's so individual, but this is a growth journey. And if you're happy where you are, that's amazing. I love that for you. But if you're someone who wants to keep growing, focus on how you react to struggle. Focus on how you grow from a point of struggling. And maybe think back to some of your past struggles and think, okay, this is what I did back then. Would I do the same thing now? Would I have the same response now, or would I respond differently? And again, just do a little check in and see how you're feeling. A little takeaway is embrace your journey. Growth comes from what you've been through. It doesn't define you. Next week, it's been a while since we touched on relationships. So, next week is profiles, promises, and red flags. We are diving back into red flags, green flags, and online dating apps. Thank you so much for listening in. So happy you're here for this journey. And make sure to follow. She's probably talking to other guys on social media. Keep in mind, the handle has been shortened because most of the platforms told me that she's probably talking to other guys was too long for a handle. So you'll find it at spttog podcast.